How to grow Cephalaria gigantea. Cephalaria gigantea, also known as giant scabious, is a tall perennial plant that produces large yellow flowers in the summer. Here are some tips on how to grow Cephalaria gigantea. Soil. Cephalaria gigantea prefers well-draining soil that is rich in organic matter. It can grow in slightly acidic to slightly alkaline soil. Sunlight. This plant thrives in full sun to partial shade. Make sure it gets at least 6 hours of direct sunlight per day. Water. Cephalaria gigantea prefers evenly moist soil but can tolerate some drought once established. Avoid overwatering, as it can cause root rot. Planting. Plant Cephalaria gigantea in the spring or fall. Dig a hole that is slightly larger than the root ball and backfill with soil. Space the plants about 2 to 3 feet apart. Fertilizer. Apply a balanced fertilizer in the spring when new growth appears. Maintenance. Deadhead the spent flowers to encourage more blooms. Cut the stems back to the ground in the fall after the foliage has died back. Propagation. Cephalaria gigantea can be propagated by division in the spring or fall. Dig up the clump, separate the sections, and replant them in their new location. Mulch. Apply a layer of mulch around the base of the plant to help retain moisture in the soil and suppress weeds. Use a natural mulch such as shredded leaves or bark chips. Support. As Cephalaria gigantea can grow up to 6 feet tall, it may require staking to prevent it from toppling over in strong winds. Install a sturdy support structure such as a bamboo cane or metal stake and tie the stem to it using garden twine. Pests and diseases. Cephalaria gigantea is generally resistant to pests and diseases, but it can be susceptible to root rot in poorly draining soil. Watch out for aphids, spider mites, and slugs, which can occasionally attack the plant. Use insecticidal soap or neem oil to control these pests. Winter care. Cephalaria gigantea is hardy to USDA zones 5 to 9 and can survive winter temperatures down to -20 degrees Fahrenheit, -29 degrees Celsius. However, in colder climates, it may benefit from a layer of mulch or a winter cover to protect the crown of the plant. Companion planting. Cephalaria gigantea can be planted with other tall perennials such as delphiniums, foxgloves, and verbascums to create a stunning vertical display. It also pairs well with ornamental grasses and low-growing ground covers. Cut flowers. Cephalaria gigantea makes an excellent cut flower and can be used in arrangements to add height and texture. Cut the stems when the flowers are fully open and place them in a vase with fresh water. Wildlife habitat. Cephalaria gigantea is a pollinator magnet and attracts bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects to the garden. It also provides shelter and nesting sites for birds. Garden design. Cephalaria gigantea is a great choice for cottage gardens, meadow plantings, and naturalistic landscapes. Its tall stature and airy blooms add a wild and romantic feel to any garden. Overall, Cephalaria gigantea is a versatile and attractive plant that can enhance any garden setting. With the right care and attention, it can thrive and bring joy for many years to come. How to grow Delia mertzkii. Delia mertzkii is a beautiful plant native to Mexico that produces delicate pink and white flowers. Here are some general guidelines on how to grow Dahlia murtzkii. Soil: choose a well-draining soil that is rich in organic matter. Dahlia murtzkii prefers slightly acidic soil, so the pH should be between 6.0 and 6.5. Sunlight: Dahlia murtzkii requires full sun to thrive. Choose a spot in your garden that receives at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight each day. Watering: water your Dahlia murtzkii regularly, especially during hot and dry weather. The soil should be kept moist but not waterlogged. Fertilizer: apply a balanced fertilizer every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season to promote healthy growth and flowering. Pruning: Dahlia murtzkii benefits from regular pruning to encourage bushier growth and more flowers. Pinch out the tips of the plant when it reaches 6 to 8 inches in height and remove any dead or diseased stems and leaves. Propagation: Dahlia murtzkii can be propagated by taking stem cuttings in the spring or by dividing the plant in the fall. Planting: plant Dahlia murtzkii tubers in the spring after the last frost date for your region. Dig a hole that is twice the size of the tuber and plant it with the eye or growing tip facing up. Cover with soil and water well. Mulching: apply a layer of mulch around the base of the plant to help retain moisture and control weeds. Make sure not to cover the stem of the plant with the mulch, as this can cause rotting. Overwintering: Dahlia murtzkii is not frost tolerant, so in colder regions, you will need to dig up the tubers in the fall and store them indoors over the winter. Wait until the foliage has died back naturally, then carefully dig up the tubers and brush off any soil. Store in a cool, dry place until spring, when you can plant them again. Pests and diseases: Dahlia murtzkii is relatively disease resistant, but it can be susceptible to aphids, spider mites, and thrips. Check your plants regularly and treat any infestations promptly with an appropriate insecticide. Avoid overwatering, as this can lead to root rot. Support: as Dahlia murtzkii grows, it may need support to keep the stems upright. You can use stakes or cages to support the plant and prevent it from bending or breaking. Deadheading: to encourage continuous blooming, it's important to deadhead Dahlia murtzkii regularly. This means removing the spent flowers as soon as they fade. How to grow Dahlia preference. Dahlia preference is a beautiful flowering plant that can be grown in gardens or containers. Here are some tips for growing Dahlia preference. Planting: Dahlia preference should be planted in well-drained soil in a sunny location. Plant the tubers, or bulbs, in the spring, after the danger of frost has passed. Dig a hole that is slightly larger than the size of the tuber and plant it about 6 inches deep, with the eye facing up. Watering: Dahlia preference requires regular watering, especially during hot and dry weather. Water deeply once or twice a week, depending on the weather and soil conditions. Avoid getting water on the foliage, as this can lead to fungal diseases. Fertilizing: Dahlia preference benefits from regular fertilization. Use a balanced fertilizer every 2 to 3 weeks during the growing season to promote healthy growth and abundant flowers. Mulching: applying a layer of organic mulch around the plants can help retain moisture in the soil and prevent weeds from growing. Pinching: Pinching the tips of the plant when it reaches about 12 inches tall can promote bushier growth and more flowers. Deadheading. Remove spent flowers regularly to promote continuous blooming and prevent the plant from putting energy into producing seeds. Overwintering. In colder climates, Dahlia preference should be lifted from the ground before the first frost and stored in a cool, dry place for the winter. In the spring, plant the tubers again once the danger of frost has passed. Pest and disease control. Dahlia preference can be susceptible to pests and diseases like aphids, spider mites, and powdery mildew. To prevent and control these problems, keep the plants healthy and well watered, and remove any infected leaves or plants immediately. You can also use insecticidal soap or neem oil to control pests, and a fungicide to control diseases. Support. Dahlia preference can grow tall and heavy, so it may need some support to prevent the stems from bending or breaking. Use stakes or a trellis to support the plants, and tie them gently with soft twine. Enjoy the flowers. Finally, don't forget to enjoy the beautiful flowers that Dahlia preference produces. Cut the flowers for bouquets or arrangements, and bring some color and beauty to your home or office. Remember to cut the flowers in the morning, and use a sharp, clean pair of scissors or pruning shears to avoid damaging the plant. Companion planting. Companion planting can be a great way to improve the health and growth of your Dahlia preference plants. Consider planting them with other plants that have similar growing requirements, such as marigolds, zinnias, or petunias. These plants can help deter pests and attract beneficial insects like bees and butterflies, which can help pollinate the flowers. Winter storage. In areas with cold winters, it's important to properly store Dahlia preference tubers during the off-season. After the first frost, cut back the stems to about 6 inches and carefully dig up the tubers. Clean off any excess soil and let the tubers dry in a cool, dry place for a few days. Once they are dry, store them in a container filled with peat moss or vermiculite, and keep them in a cool, dry place until it's time to plant them again in the spring. Pruning. Regular pruning can help keep Dahlia preference plants compact and bushy, and promote more flowers. Pinch off the tips of the plant when it reaches about 12 inches tall, and pinch back the lateral branches to promote more branching and flowering. Soil amendments. Before planting Dahlia preference, it's a good idea to amend the soil with organic matter such as compost, aged manure, or peat moss. This can help improve soil fertility and drainage, which can lead to healthier plants and more flowers. Watering schedule. In addition to regular watering, it's important to pay attention to the timing and amount of water you give to your Dahlia preference plants. Water in the morning to allow excess moisture to evaporate during the day, and avoid overhead watering that can cause the leaves to stay wet and lead to fungal diseases. Water deeply and thoroughly, but avoid overwatering that can lead to root rot. Sunlight. Dahlia preference thrives in full sun, which means they need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight per day. Make sure to plant them in a location that receives plenty of sunlight throughout the day, and avoid planting them in areas that are shaded or have too much direct afternoon sun. Plant spacing. When planting Dahlia preference, make sure to space them at least 18 to 24 inches apart to allow for proper air circulation and growth. This can help prevent overcrowding, which can lead to disease and pest problems. By following these additional tips, you can further improve the health and growth of your Dahlia preference plants, and ensure that they produce beautiful and abundant flowers throughout the growing season. How to grow Dahlia purpurea. Dahlia purpurea, also known as purple prairie clover, is a hardy perennial plant that is native to North America. It is a popular choice for gardens, as it produces beautiful purple flowers and attracts pollinators such as bees and butterflies. Here are some tips on how to grow Dahlia purpurea. Choose a sunny location. Dahlia purpurea prefers full sun, so choose a location that receives at least 6 hours of sunlight per day. Soil. This plant prefers well-draining soil with a pH between 6.0 and 7.5. If your soil is heavy or clay-like, add some sand or compost to improve drainage. Watering. Dahlia purpurea is drought tolerant and doesn't require a lot of watering once established. Water the plant deeply once a week during the growing season, and less frequently during the dormant season. Fertilizer. Dahlia purpurea doesn't require a lot of fertilizer, but you can give it a boost with a slow-release fertilizer in the spring. Pruning. Deadhead the flowers as they fade to encourage more blooms. You can also cut the plant back to a few inches above the ground in the fall or early spring to encourage new growth. Propagation. Dahlia purpurea can be propagated from seed or by division. To propagate by seed, sow the seeds in the fall or early spring. To propagate by division, dig up the plant in the fall or early spring and separate the roots into smaller clumps. Mulching. Mulching around the plant with organic materials such as compost or wood chips can help to retain moisture in the soil, suppress weed growth, and improve soil quality over time. Pest and disease management. Dahlia purpurea is relatively pest and disease resistant, but it can be susceptible to root rot if the soil is too wet. To prevent this, make sure the soil has good drainage and avoid overwatering. Keep an eye out for any signs of insect infestations or disease, and treat as needed with organic pest management methods. Wildlife habitat. Dahlia purpurea is a great plant for attracting pollinators such as bees and butterflies to your garden.
How to grow Delphinium cassius. Delphinium cassius is a beautiful and popular perennial plant that produces tall spikes of showy flowers in shades of blue and purple. Here are some tips on how to grow and care for Delphinium cassius. Planting. Delphinium cassius prefers to be grown in a spot with full sun to partial shade, and well-draining soil that is rich in organic matter. You can plant it in the spring or fall, and make sure to space the plants about 2 to 3 feet apart to give them room to grow. Watering. Keep the soil moist, but not waterlogged, especially during the hot and dry summer months. Water deeply once a week, or more frequently if the weather is particularly dry. Fertilizing. Delphinium cassius benefits from regular fertilization with a balanced fertilizer, such as a October 10, 2010 or 2020 formula. Apply the fertilizer once a month during the growing season. Staking. The tall flower spikes of Delphinium cassius can be prone to bending or breaking, especially in windy conditions. To prevent this, you can stake the plants with bamboo or metal rods, or use a plant support system. Deadheading. To encourage more blooms and prevent the plant from self-seeding, remove spent flower spikes as soon as they fade. Cut them back to the base of the plant or to a side shoot. Mulching. Mulch around the base of the plant with a layer of organic matter, such as compost or shredded leaves. This will help retain moisture, suppress weeds, and regulate soil temperature. Winter care. Delphinium caches is hardy to USDA zones 3 to 7, and can tolerate freezing temperatures. However, it's a good idea to provide some winter protection by mulching the base of the plant with a layer of straw or leaves. Pests and diseases. Delphinium caches can be susceptible to a variety of pests and diseases, including aphids, slugs, snails, powdery mildew, and crown rot. To prevent these problems, keep the plants healthy and well maintained, remove any damaged or diseased foliage, and use organic pest control methods if necessary. Propagation. You can propagate Delphinium caches by seed or by division. To grow from seed, sow in early spring or late summer in a seed tray filled with well-draining soil. Keep the soil moist and at a temperature of around 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit until the seedlings emerge. To propagate by division, wait until the plant is well established and then dig up the clump in early spring or late fall. Divide the clump into smaller sections, each with their own roots and foliage, and replant them in a new location. Companion planting. Delphinium caches look stunning when planted alongside other tall perennials such as lupins, foxgloves, and phlox. It also makes a great backdrop for lower-growing plants such as coreopsis, salvia, and echinacea. Cut flower. Delphinium caches is a popular cut flower for floral arrangements. To harvest the flowers, wait until they are fully open and cut the stem at an angle just above a set of leaves. Place the stems immediately in a vase of water and add floral preservative to prolong their vase life. Overwintering. In areas with harsh winters, you may need to protect your Delphinium caches from freezing temperatures. Cut the plant back to a few inches above the ground after the first frost and cover it with a layer of mulch or straw to insulate the roots. In the spring, remove the mulch and cut back any dead or damaged growth. Pruning. In late summer or early fall, cut back the spent flower spikes to the base of the plant to encourage a second flush of blooms. In the spring, remove any dead or damaged foliage and cut the stems back to just above the lowest set of healthy leaves. Soil phone. Delphinium caches prefers a slightly acidic soil with a pH between 6.0 and 7.0. If your soil is too alkaline, you can amend it with sulfur or iron sulfate to lower the pH. Avoid overhead watering. Delphinium caches is susceptible to powdery mildew and other fungal diseases, especially if the foliage stays wet for extended periods. To prevent this, avoid overhead watering and water the plant at the base instead. With proper care and attention, Delphinium caches can thrive in your garden for years to come, providing you with beautiful blooms and a touch of elegance. How to grow Dianthus Devon Wizard. Dianthus Devon Wizard is a beautiful perennial plant that produces fragrant pink or lavender flowers. Here are some tips for growing this plant. Planting. Dianthus Devon Wizard prefers well-drained soil that is rich in organic matter. It's best to plant them in a location that receives full sun, although they can tolerate some shade. Avoid overhead watering. Delphinium caches is susceptible to powdery mildew and other fungal diseases, especially if the foliage stays wet for extended periods. Watering. Dianthus Devon Wizard prefers moderate watering, meaning you should water them regularly but not excessively. Watering. Dianthus Devon Wizard prefers moderate watering, meaning you should water them regularly but not excessively. Make sure to water them deeply once a week during hot, dry weather. Fertilizing. Apply a balanced fertilizer to your plants in the spring, just as new growth begins. Pruning. To encourage bushy growth and more flowers, you should pinch back the tips of the plant in early spring and again in midsummer. Mulching. Mulch around the base of the plants with organic matter, such as leaves or bark, to help retain moisture in the soil and suppress weeds. Winter care. In colder climates, you should cut back the plants in the fall and mulch around the base with straw or leaves to protect them from freezing temperatures. Pest and disease control. Dianthus Devon Wizard is generally resistant to pests and diseases. But you should still keep an eye out for common issues such as aphids, spider mites, and fungal diseases like powdery mildew. If you notice any signs of pests or disease, you can treat them with an insecticidal soap or fungicide. Propagation. Dianthus Devon Wizard can be propagated through seeds or by division. Pest and disease control. Dianthus Devon Wizard is generally resistant to pests and diseases. To propagate by division, simply dig up the plant in the spring or fall and carefully separate the clumps into smaller sections. To propagate by division, simply dig up the plant in the spring or fall and carefully separate the clumps into smaller sections. Replant the sections immediately in well-draining soil and keep them well watered until they become established. Companion planting. Dianthus Devon Wizard pairs well with other sun-loving perennials like Salvia, Rudbeckia, and Coreopsis. It also makes a great addition to rock gardens and cottage-style gardens. Deadheading. To encourage your Dianthus Devon Wizard to produce more flowers, you should deadhead them regularly.
How to grow Disporum longistylum night heron. Disporum longistylum night heron is a beautiful and elegant plant that is relatively easy to grow. This perennial plant is native to Asia, and it features delicate foliage and lovely flowers that bloom in late spring. In this article, we will discuss the steps you need to follow to grow and care for this stunning plant. Firstly, when selecting a site for planting Disporum longistylum night heron, it is essential to choose an area that receives partial to full shade. This plant prefers cool and moist conditions, and it grows best in well-drained, slightly acidic soil. If you are unsure about the pH of your soil, you can perform a soil test to determine whether it is suitable for this plant. Once you have selected a suitable site, it is time to prepare the soil. Dig a hole that is twice as wide and deep as the plant's container, and add compost or peat moss to the hole to improve soil fertility and drainage. Gently remove the plant from its container and loosen the roots before placing it in the hole. Backfill the hole with soil and water the plant thoroughly. Next, it is essential to keep the soil evenly moist, but not waterlogged. Water the Disporum longistylum night heron deeply once a week, or more frequently in hot and dry weather. Applying a layer of mulch around the plant can also help to retain soil moisture and suppress weeds. In early spring, fertilize the Disporum longistylum night heron with a balanced, slow-release fertilizer. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for application rates. Additionally, Pruning the plant in early spring to remove any dead or damaged stems can help promote bushier growth and prevent it from becoming too leggy. Propagation of Disporum longistylum night heron can be achieved through division in early spring or fall. Carefully dig up the plant and separate the rhizomes, ensuring that each division has at least one stem and a good set of roots. Replant the divisions in a new location or container, and water thoroughly. Disporum longistylum night heron is generally not prone to pests and diseases. However, it may be susceptible to fungal infections in humid conditions. To prevent this, make sure the plant is in a well-ventilated area and avoid overhead watering. In colder climates, it may be necessary to provide some protection for the Disporum longistylum night heron during the winter months. This can be achieved by mulching around the plant in the fall or covering it with a frost blanket during extreme cold snaps. Finally, Disporum longistylum night heron can also be grown in containers, making it an ideal choice for patios, balconies, and other small spaces. Choose a container that is at least 12 inches in diameter and depth, with drainage holes at the bottom. Fill the container with a well-draining potting mix, and plant the Disporum longistylum night heron in the center. Water the plant regularly and fertilize every 2 to 3 weeks during the growing season. In terms of companion planting, Disporum longistylum night heron can be paired with other shade-loving plants, such as hostas, ferns, and astilbes, to create a beautiful woodland garden. You can also plant it alongside spring bulbs like daffodils and tulips, as the foliage of the Disporum longistylum night heron will provide a nice contrast to the colorful blooms. One of the benefits of Disporum longistylum night heron is that it does not require much maintenance. However, there are a few things to keep in mind to ensure the plant stays healthy and attractive. In addition to the care mentioned above, make sure to remove any dead or yellowing leaves as they appear. This will help keep the plant looking neat and tidy. If you'd like to bring the beauty of the Disporum longistylum night heron indoors, you can cut the stems and place them in a vase of water. The delicate flowers will last for several days and make a lovely addition to any room. In summary, Disporum longistylum night heron is a beautiful and low-maintenance plant that is perfect for adding interest to shaded areas of your garden. With proper care and attention, you can enjoy the stunning foliage and delicate flowers of this plant for years to come. How to grow Epimedium x Youngionum niveum. Epimedium x Youngionum niveum is a delightful perennial plant that is a great addition to any garden. It is a hybrid of 2 species of Epimedium, and it is known for its elegant foliage and dainty white flowers that bloom in spring. In this article, we will discuss how to plant and care for Epimedium x Youngionum niveum to ensure it thrives in your garden. Firstly, it is important to select a suitable site for planting Epimedium x Youngionum niveum. This plant prefers partial shade to full shade and moist, well-draining soil. It is important to ensure that the soil is not waterlogged, as this can lead to root rot. If your soil is heavy or poorly drained, consider amending it with organic matter such as compost or leaf mold to improve its structure. When planting Epimedium x Youngionum niveum, dig a hole that is slightly larger than the plant's root ball. Gently loosen the roots and place the plant in the hole. Make sure the top of the root ball is level with the soil surface, and backfill with soil. Water the plant well to settle the soil around the roots. Epimedium X Youngian omnivium requires consistent moisture to thrive, especially during its first growing season. Water the plant deeply once a week or more frequently in hot, dry weather. Mulching around the plant with a layer of organic matter can help retain moisture in the soil and suppress weeds. In terms of fertilizer, Epimedium X Youngian omnivium does not require heavy feeding. A light application of compost or a balanced fertilizer in early spring should be sufficient to provide the necessary nutrients. Avoid over-fertilizing, as this can lead to lush foliage growth at the expense of flowers. Epimedium X Youngian omnivium is relatively low maintenance, but there are a few things to keep in mind to ensure it stays healthy and attractive. Remove any dead or yellowing leaves as they appear to keep the plant looking neat and tidy. In late winter or early spring, cut back the old foliage to make way for new growth. Propagation of Epimedium X Youngian omnivium can be achieved through division in early spring. Carefully dig up the plant and separate the rhizomes, ensuring that each division has at least one stem and a good set of roots.
How to grow Arissimum winter orchid. Arissimum winter orchid is a hardy perennial plant that produces beautiful purple flowers in the winter and early spring. Here are some general guidelines for growing this plant. Planting: Arissimum winter orchid prefers a sunny location with well-draining soil. Plant the seeds or the young plant in early spring or early autumn, making sure to space them about 12 inches apart. Watering: water your Arissimum winter orchid regularly, making sure not to let the soil dry out completely. However, be careful not to overwater as this plant is susceptible to root rot. Fertilizing: apply a balanced fertilizer in the spring to promote healthy growth and flowering. Pruning: prune your Arissimum winter orchid regularly to promote bushy growth and prevent it from becoming leggy. Cut back the stems by about 1/3 after flowering. Pest and disease control: watch out for aphids and caterpillars, which can damage the plant. Treat with an insecticidal soap or spray if necessary. This plant is also susceptible to fungal diseases, so make sure to keep the foliage dry and avoid overcrowding. Mulching: adding a layer of organic mulch around the base of the plant can help retain moisture in the soil and suppress weeds. Make sure to keep the mulch a few inches away from the stem to prevent rotting. Propagation: Arissimum winter orchid can be propagated by taking stem cuttings in the summer or by sowing seeds in the autumn. If propagating by cuttings, take 4 to 6 inch long stem cuttings from the parent plant, remove the lower leaves, and dip the end in rooting hormone before planting in well-draining soil. Winter care: Arissimum winter orchid is a cold-hardy plant and can tolerate frost, but it is still important to protect it from extreme weather conditions. Mulching around the base of the plant can help protect the roots from freezing temperatures. Deadheading: regular deadheading of the spent flowers can promote prolonged blooming and a bushier plant. Companion planting: Arissimum winter orchid can be planted with other winter blooming plants, such as hellebores, cyclamen, and snowdrops, to create a stunning winter garden display. You can also pair it with early blooming bulbs like crocuses, daffodils, or tulips for a colorful spring garden. Sun exposure: Arissimum winter orchid prefers full sun exposure to partial shade, so make sure to plant it in a location that receives at least 6 hours of direct sunlight per day. Soil phone: this plant prefers a slightly acidic soil with a pH range of 6.0 to 7.5. You can use a soil test kit to determine the pH level of your soil and make any necessary adjustments. Soil preparation. Before planting, make sure to prepare the soil by adding compost or well-rotted manure to improve its texture and fertility. Avoid using heavy clay soils as they can cause waterlogging and root rot. Container growing. Erysimum winter orchid can also be grown in containers, making it an ideal plant for balcony or patio gardens. Use a well-draining potting mix and make sure to water regularly, as container-grown plants tend to dry out faster. Division. Erysimum winter orchid can be divided every few years to promote healthier growth and prevent overcrowding. Divide the plant in early spring or autumn by digging up the root ball and separating it into smaller clumps, each with its own stem and roots. Support. Erysimum winter orchid has a tendency to become leggy and may require staking or support to prevent it from falling over in windy conditions. You can use bamboo stakes or wire frames to support the stems. Propagation by layering. Erysimum winter orchid can also be propagated by layering. To do this, bend a low-growing stem down to the ground and cover it with soil, leaving the tip exposed. After a few weeks, the stem will develop roots and can be separated from the parent plant. Pruning after blooming. Once the flowering season is over, prune the plant back to promote bushy growth and prevent it from becoming too leggy. Cut back the stems to about half their length, making sure to leave some foliage on the plant. Avoid excessive fertilization. While Erysimum winter orchid benefits from regular fertilization, excessive use of fertilizers can cause the plant to become too leggy and reduce the number of flowers. Use a balanced fertilizer in moderation and follow the manufacturer's instructions. Regular inspection. Regularly inspect your Erysimum winter orchid for signs of pests and diseases, such as yellowing or spotted foliage, distorted growth, or stunted flowers. Early detection and treatment can prevent the problem from spreading to other plants in your garden. By following these basic guidelines, you should be able to grow a healthy and beautiful Erysimum winter orchid. However, do keep in mind that different growing conditions or geographic locations may require slight adjustments in the care instructions. How to grow Geranium psilostymen. Geranium psilostymen, commonly known as Armenian cranesbill, is a hardy perennial plant that produces beautiful pink-purple flowers in the summer. Here are some general guidelines on how to grow Geranium psilostymen. Planting. Geranium psilostymen prefers a well-draining soil and a sunny or partially shaded location. You can plant it in the spring or fall. Soil. The soil should be rich in organic matter and slightly acidic with a pH between 6.0 and 7.0. Watering. Geranium psilostymen needs regular watering, especially during the summer months. Water the plant deeply once a week, or more frequently if the weather is particularly hot and dry. Fertilizer. You can fertilize Geranium psilostymen with a balanced fertilizer in the spring and midsummer. Follow the package instructions for application rates. Pruning. After the first flush of blooms has finished, you can deadhead the spent flowers to encourage more blooms. You can also prune the plant back by 1/3 in the late summer to encourage a more compact growth habit. Winter care. Geranium psilostymen is generally hardy and does not require any special winter care. However, you can add a layer of mulch around the base of the plant to protect the roots during particularly harsh winters. Propagation. Geranium psilostymen can be propagated by division in the spring or fall. Carefully dig up the plant and separate the clumps, making sure each division has some roots and leaves. Replant the divisions in a new location or container with well-draining soil and water thoroughly. How to grow Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno, also known as double orange daylily, is a beautiful perennial plant that is easy to grow and maintain. Here are some tips on how to grow Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno. Planting. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno prefers well-drained soil and full sun, but can also tolerate partial shade. Plant the rhizomes in the spring or fall, making sure to plant them at the same depth they were in the pot or container. Watering. Water the plant regularly, especially during the hot summer months. Keep the soil consistently moist but not waterlogged, as too much water can cause root rot. Fertilization. Fertilize the plant with a balanced fertilizer once in the spring and again in the summer to promote healthy growth and flowering. Pruning. Remove dead or yellowing leaves and spend flowers to promote new growth, and to keep the plant looking neat and tidy. Division. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno can be divided every 3 to 4 years in the fall to promote new growth, and to prevent overcrowding. Pests and diseases. Daylilies are generally resistant to pests and diseases. However, keep an eye out for slugs and snails, which can damage the leaves and flowers. If you notice any signs of disease or pest infestation, treat the plant immediately. Mulching. Mulch around the plant with a layer of organic matter such as bark or compost. This will help retain moisture in the soil and suppress weeds. Winter care. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno is a hardy plant and can survive cold winters. However, in areas with severe winters, it is advisable to mulch around the plant with a layer of straw or leaves to protect it from frost. Propagation. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno can be propagated by division, seed, or tissue culture. Division is the most common method and should be done in the fall or early spring. Enjoy the flowers. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno produces beautiful, double orange blooms that are fragrant and attract pollinators such as bees and butterflies. Enjoy the flowers by cutting them for bouquets or leaving them on the plant to brighten up your garden. In summary, Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno is an easy-to-grow plant that requires little maintenance. By following the above tips, you can enjoy its beautiful blooms for years to come. Companion planting. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno can be paired with other perennials such as salvia, Russian sage, and coneflowers to create a beautiful and colorful garden bed. The daylilies' bright orange blooms provide a striking contrast to the cool blues and purples of these other plants. Deadheading. Deadheading is the process of removing the spent flowers from the plant. This not only improves the plant's appearance but also encourages it to produce more flowers. Avoid overcrowding. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno grows best when it has room to spread out. Avoid overcrowding by planting it at least 18 inches apart from other plants. Protect from extreme heat. While Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno prefers full sun, it can become stressed in extreme heat. If you live in an area with hot summers, consider planting it in a location with partial shade or providing it with some afternoon shade. Enjoy the benefits. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno is not only a beautiful plant but also has medicinal properties. The roots and flowers are used in traditional medicine to treat a variety of ailments. However, it is important to consult with a healthcare professional before using any plant for medicinal purposes. Consider hybrid varieties. Hemerocallis fulviflora pleno is a classic double orange daylily, but there are many hybrid varieties available that come in a wide range of colors, shapes, and sizes. Consider adding some of these varieties to your garden to add more variety and interest. Check soil phone. Hemerocallis vulva flor pleno prefers soil with a slightly acidic to neutral pH level. Test your soil pH and adjust as necessary to ensure optimal growth and health. Provide adequate drainage. Hemerocallis vulva flor pleno prefers well-drained soil. If your soil is heavy or clay-based, consider adding some sand or perlite to improve drainage. Cut back foliage. In the fall, after the first frost, cut back the foliage to about 2 inches above the ground. This will help the plant conserve energy over the winter and promote new growth in the spring. Protect from pests. While Hemerocallis vulva flor pleno is generally resistant to pests, it can sometimes be affected by aphids or spider mites. Check your plants regularly and treat any infestations promptly with insecticidal soap or neem oil. In conclusion, Hemerocallis vulva flor pleno is a low-maintenance plant that can provide years of beauty and enjoyment in your garden. By following the above tips, you can ensure that your plant thrives and produces abundant blooms year after year. How to grow hibiscus mosquitoes. Hibiscus mosquitoes, also known as swamp rose mallow or hardy hibiscus, is a perennial plant that produces large, showy flowers in shades of pink, red, white, and purple. Here are some general steps for growing hibiscus mosquitoes. Choose a suitable planting location. Hibiscus mosquitoes prefers full sun to partial shade and moist, well-drained soil. It can grow in a wide range of soil types, including sandy, loamy, and clay soils. Plant the hibiscus mosquitoes. Plant the hibiscus in the spring or fall, spacing the plants about 2 to 3 feet apart. Dig a hole that is twice as wide as the root ball and slightly deeper. Add some compost or other organic matter to the soil and mix it in well. Place the plant in the hole and backfill with soil, firming it around the roots. Water regularly. Keep the soil evenly moist, but not waterlogged. Water deeply once or twice a week, depending on the weather and soil conditions. Avoid getting water on the foliage, as this can promote fungal diseases. Fertilize. Apply a balanced fertilizer, such as October 10, 2010 or 2020, in the spring and midsummer. Follow the package instructions for the amount to use. Prune. In the early spring, prune the hibiscus back to about 6 inches from the ground. This will help promote bushy growth and more flowers. Protect from pests and diseases. Keep an eye out for pests such as aphids, spider mites, and whiteflies. How to grow Iris X robusta dark aura. Iris X robusta dark aura is a hardy and easy-to-grow perennial that produces stunning purple-black flowers with yellow markings in mid-spring. Here are some tips on how to grow and care for Iris X robusta dark aura. Location. Choose a location that receives full to partial sunlight and has well-draining soil. Iris X robusta dark aura prefers slightly acidic to neutral soil pH, ideally between 6.0 and 7.5. Planting. Plant Iris X robusta dark aura in the fall, around 4 to 6 weeks before the ground freezes. Dig a hole that is slightly deeper than the rhizome, thick stem-like structure, and about twice as wide. Place the rhizome in the hole with the top of the rhizome just above the soil level. Space the plants about 12 to 18 inches apart. Watering. Water the plants regularly, especially during the first year of growth, to keep the soil moist but not waterlogged. After the first year, they are somewhat drought tolerant and may only need watering during extended dry periods. Fertilizing. Fertilize Iris X Robusta Dark Aura with a balanced fertilizer, such as October 10, 2010 or December 12, 2012, in early spring, just as new growth begins, and again after flowering. Mulching. Apply a layer of mulch around the plants to help retain soil moisture and prevent weeds. Pruning. After flowering, cut back the flower stalks to the base of the plant. Remove any dead or yellowing leaves as needed throughout the growing season. Dividing. Iris X Robusta Dark Aura can become crowded over time and may need to be divided every 3 to 4 years. The best time to divide is in late summer or early fall, after flowering has ended. Dig up the rhizomes and separate them into sections with a sharp knife, making sure each section has at least one healthy shoot and some roots. Replant the sections as described above. Pests and diseases. Iris X Robusta Dark Aura is generally resistant to pests and diseases, but they can be susceptible to iris borer, a type of moth larva that tunnels into the rhizome and can cause significant damage. Check for signs of iris borer, such as wilting or yellowing leaves, and remove any affected parts of the plant immediately. Winter care. In colder climates, Iris X Robusta Dark Aura may benefit from a layer of mulch or a covering of evergreen boughs to protect the rhizomes from freezing temperatures. In areas with mild winters, the plant will go dormant and may not require any special care. Enjoy the blooms. Once your Iris X Robusta Dark Aura has matured, it will produce stunning purple-black blooms with yellow markings in mid-spring. Enjoy the beauty of your garden and consider cutting some flowers for indoor arrangements. Companion plants. Iris X Robusta Dark Aura pairs well with a variety of other perennials, such as peonies, salvia, and daylilies. Consider planting them together to create a beautiful and low-maintenance garden. Deadheading. Removing spent flowers can help extend the blooming season and promote more vigorous growth. Cut the flower stalks back to the base of the plant as soon as the flowers have faded. Avoid overwatering. While Iris X Robusta Dark Aura prefers consistently moist soil, it is important to avoid overwatering, as this can lead to root rot and other problems. Allow the soil to dry out slightly between waterings, and make sure the soil has good drainage to prevent standing water. Avoid overcrowding. As Iris X Robusta Dark Aura matures and forms new rhizomes, it can become crowded and may need to be divided. Overcrowded plants may produce fewer blooms and be more susceptible to disease. Enjoy the foliage. In addition to its stunning flowers, Iris X Robusta Dark Aura also has attractive, sword-shaped leaves that add texture and interest to the garden. Consider planting it in a spot where the foliage can be appreciated even when it is not in bloom. Protect from strong winds. The tall flower stalks of Iris X Robusta Dark Aura can be vulnerable to damage from strong winds. Consider planting it in a sheltered location or providing some type of support, such as stakes or a trellis, to prevent the flowers from bending or breaking. Remove dead leaves. As the plant matures, it may produce dead or yellowing leaves that can detract from its overall appearance. Remove these leaves as soon as possible to keep the plant looking its best. Consider container gardening. While Iris X Robusta Dark Aura is typically grown in the ground, it can also be grown in containers. Choose a large pot with good drainage and fill it with a well-draining potting mix. Water the plant regularly and fertilize as needed to promote healthy growth. Monitor for signs of disease. While Iris X Robusta Dark Aura is generally resistant to pests and diseases, it is still important to monitor the plant for signs of problems. Look for yellowing leaves, wilting, or other signs of stress, and take action promptly to address any issues. Enjoy the benefits. In addition to its beauty, Iris X Robusta Dark Aura also has some practical benefits. Its rhizomes can be used to make a natural dye, and some varieties are even edible, although it is important to confirm the safety and suitability of any plant before consuming it. By following these additional tips, you can ensure that your Iris X Robusta Dark Aura thrives and adds beauty to your garden for many years. How to grow Hosta Sieboldiana var. Elegans. Hosta Sieboldiana var. Elegans is a popular variety of hosta that is prized for its large, blue-green leaves and attractive foliage. Here are some tips on how to grow and care for this beautiful plant. Planting, Hosta Sieboldiana var. Elegans prefers partial to full shade and moist, well-drained soil. It is important to choose a site that is protected from strong winds and direct sunlight. Plant the hosta in the spring, after the danger of frost has passed. Watering, Hosta Sieboldiana var. Elegans needs regular watering to keep the soil moist, but not waterlogged. Water deeply once a week, or more often during hot, dry weather. Fertilizing, apply a slow-release fertilizer to the soil around the hosta in the spring, when new growth appears. Alternatively, you can use a liquid fertilizer every 2 weeks during the growing season. Mulching, apply a layer of mulch around the hosta to help retain moisture in the soil and suppress weeds. Use a 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch, such as shredded bark or leaf mold. Pruning, remove any yellow or dead leaves as they appear, and cut back the foliage in the fall after it has died back naturally.